Hey folks, JD here, and still waiting on that quadcopter shipment unfortunately, but that's okay because we are going to have a little look at this guy. Now, I've been asked a lot of questions this week about beginner quadcopters, what's the best quadcopter. I thought what I would do is I would fly this from the perspective of a beginner and see exactly if this does cut the grade and see whether or not this is a good quadcopter for that. So what I'm going to do first is just go through the rather long process of just making this flyable. So here we go. So as we saw a couple of weeks ago when we were looking at this quadcopter is really fun. But it can be fun and not be for beginners as well. So now that we have that fully assembled within a couple of seconds and all the feet are nice and stable, everything else is looking good on this particular quadcopter. So let's take to the skies. Okay, so I think it's important to remember when you have your first quadcopter, what you're pretty much going to be used to, or what you're pretty much going to be getting used to, is how this guy flies. So because this guy has altitude hold, that's going to help immensely, and especially with the automatic takeoff and landing button as well, that in itself is going to help no end as well. So now we've got a pretty still day. And look at that, no GPS, barometer does move a little bit just because of the pressure changing around the quadcopter, but still, this is in low mode as well, so all I'm doing for the second is just moving him around. As you can see, he is pretty quick even on low mode, but still it's such a nice movement. It's not jerky, it's nice and smooth when you turn him from left to right. He really is a nice quadcopter. And because he's fold away as well, and because his propellers and his propeller arms fold away as well, it just makes for even better flying. It just means that you can take him in a really small bag just means you can take him in a really small bag, and you haven't got to carry anything too large or anything too heavy, or risk the straps of the bag breaking. This really is a light copter, and especially for days like today where we have absolutely no wind, it just excels, absolutely excels. So when I was first buying, I think I learnt a lot over the past 12 months, and when I was buying my first quadcopter, it was more about looks than about anything else, if I'm honest. So one thing that I would most definitely do if you are thinking of buying your first quadcopter, most definitely I would suggest looking for something that has a quadcopter that has altitude hold. That just makes it a little bit easier for you. It means that when you are turning left and right, and when you're flying forwards and backwards, you can always stop the quadcopter, you can figure out which way he's meant to be pointing, and then you can move, rather than trying to juggle his altitude, trying to juggle which movement he is left and right, and just hoping for the best that he's pointing the correct way. So much fun, absolutely so much fun. And also this guy can be flown via a smartphone app as well, so if you didn't want to take this massive chunky transmitter with you, then you have the option of flying with a smartphone app as well. I think this is a very good beginner quadcopter, I really do. I mean, he flies so stable, he flies stable forward, he flies stable backwards, he turns very nicely. When you move direction, the air brakes are pretty quick to respond. Okay, there is a little bit of motion backwards because the motors aren't very powerful, so therefore it's not going to be like the Phantom where it just stops dead and then changes direction. So there is, as you can see there, it still goes back a little way. But still, I don't think that's terrible. I mean, there are quadcopters that I've flown that as soon as you change direction, you push forward and it still goes backwards, at least 2 or 3 foot. Yeah, I'm finding this, again, it's only the second time I've taken this guy out, and it is very fun. very fun. So because this is the first time that we've ever had a shipment not be delivered on time, I'm going to give a couple of spoilers about the quadcopters over the next 4 weeks. Well, some spoilers, no, just a spoiler. We've got some racers, which I'm really looking forward to. I've been quite late coming into the racer game because there's been a lot of consumer quadcopters that I've really wanted to buy and fly. But there are a load of racers that are really taking my fancy. So yeah, excellent. All in all, what a brilliant little quadcopter this little guy is. And cheap as well. I did get him from overseas. He cost me, I believe it was about £43. So that in itself, for a fold-in quadcopter that mimics the stylings of the DJI Mavik. Okay, let me just say this straight away. It isn't a DJI Mavik. But it is a remarkably good quadcopter for the money. And also, it has its own landing feature as well, which, to be honest with you, that in itself is just worth it. So yeah, all in all, and takeoff. Look at that. You know, little gimmicks like that don't mean anything to the flight, but they do mean that you are just going to have that little bit extra fun, just down to the fact that the quadcopter can do something for itself. Can take off, hover to an altitude of 1 meter. The barometer itself is pretty good inside of it as well. Obviously it does alter when it does sense air pressure, so you are going to have it going up and down, maybe left and right a bit as well. It's not like GPS hold where it just holds it and just keeps it there. But look at that, even for something that isn't GPS, you know, I'm really quite impressed with it. Okay, I could perhaps trim that up a little bit to get it a bit more stable, but that to me is not in any way, shape or form out of control. You know. Let's take you home. Let's take you home. Alright. Alright, so now we're just waiting now for the motors to kick off. And yeah, that's it. Should be good. There we are, perfect. That took a little bit longer than expected that time. I wonder why. Alright then folks, well, as we said in the first video, this is still a fantastic quadcopter. To be honest, I would say it most definitely is for beginners. It has nice altitude hold feature. Low mode is quite low. Obviously I wouldn't suggest you putting it into high mode straight away because that is extremely fast, as it says on the body there. So yes, all in all, I would say very, very good. The camera itself isn't brilliant, but does take pretty good 4x3 photos and video, although they are quite grainy and quite noisy. So all in all, if you are looking for a quadcopter which is inexpensive, just to test on, just to try, don't know if you're going to like flying, never flown before, definitely this guy is a go. So I'll put a link in the description to a model of this on Amazon. So there we are folks, if you do buy it, let us know how you get on. So until next time my friends, thanks ever so much for watching and listening. I've been JD, you've been fantastic as always. Hello to all the new subscribers, I hope you're enjoying the channel. So until next time my friends, happy flying.